First thing I wanted to talk about is how the U.S. men's national team doing and how Pochettino is doing specifically. What do you think?
Well, let's not forget he just was hired in August of 24. So I mean, it's going to take time. Um, if I was to give you my opinion of whether he should have been hired or not,
Oh yeah,
I would say no.
really?
And I think the reasons would be that number one, I don't think there's enough time, uh, and I think the decision making from U.S. Soccer was not timed correctly. Personally, I think I would have left the same head coach, Burkhalter, for at least another World Cup, get us through the World Cup. There was a moment from last World Cup till the firing where there was some good football being played by the United States national team, and obviously they were dominating the CONCACAF, which yes, it's probably not the most difficult confederation, but they were dominating, and they were consistently defeating Mexico, which at one time was
Yeah, for
the number
sure.
one team in CONCACAF. So, in my opinion, I think if they were going to make the move, it should have been 2 years ago after the World Cup.
Yeah. So you thought Berhalter did a good enough job to keep his job?
I think so. If you look at it, qualified for the World Cup, dominated CONCACAF, like I said. So, a lot of people might have not been happy with the way he was coaching or how the team was playing, but they were getting results and the ranking was higher. And, if you look at, the consistency of the national team overall, it might not be the best national team in the world, but they seem to have some type of a little identity. And I think making the decision, again, and I repeat, it should have been done sooner or let him at least stay till after this World Cup, which is going to be on home territory,
Yeah.
and then possibly make a move after that.
What do you think they saw in Pochettino that they decided to go with him instead of any other candidate, you think?
Well, if you look at his coaching record, I mean, his resume, he's 52, 53 now, so he's at a decent age.
Yeah.
He's had the experience of as a player. I think he played for the Argentine national team, I think for about 20 caps, if I'm correct. But if you look at the teams that he's coached, in the Premiership, Spurs, Chelsea, and then he was at PSG, which, by the way, right now is in the semifinals,
Yeah, doing well.
the Champions League. I don't think, though, that you can say that he's a proven championship winner. And getting back to the point of Burkhalter, in World Cup history, from the start, back in 1930s, there has never been a coach that has won a world championship on a foreign team. So in other words, they're all national coaches, Brazilians coaching Brazilians.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And so, and that said, is if the United States is shooting to become the best team in the world, I think we're eventually going to have to go with an American coach who understands the American player, because the American player is brought up in a completely different environment, which is a play-to-play. And you even saw that in the World Cup and the problems that Burkhalter had with eventually parents getting involved a little bit,
Yeah.
even that they had those great relationships as kids. But I just would love to see the United States do well. And I really believe that's going to happen when, we go back to an American coach who understands soccer. I thought Bruce Arena in 2002 showed that, hey, the United States can play with anybody in a World Cup. They beat Mexico in that World Cup, and they could have beat Germany. People talk about the handball and no handball, but I thought that with an American coach, we had shown that we can get far in a World Cup. So why not continue that pathway?
I remember Klinsmann getting a lot of flack from a lot of people, about his process and his methods. Do you feel like he did a good enough job? Because he was, obviously from Germany.
Yeah, he's from Germany. Yeah, but I think that again, I think the success in a World Cup, I really believe is going to come where there's national pride,
Yeah.
and you're wearing your national uniform and you're coaching your national team. I've seen different coaches coaching, at a World Cup that are coaching a team that they're not a national born coach from. And I don't think that history is is going to change. I really believe that the Brazilians are going to win with Brazilians, the Argentines are going to win with the Argentines, the Italians are going to win with the Italians, because to a point, soccer's a culture. It's culture. It's how you live the day. It's the person, how you live in your city and how you relate to one another. And you bring in an Argentine coach to coach American players. I don't agree with it. And I think that he hasn't proven that he is an international coach, by the way. You know, he's only coached in the first division, be it at the Premiership, be it in, France. But coaching a national team is completely different.
Yeah. What about have you heard of like all of Landon Donovan's comments about, representing your country and not having enough spirit and fire and energy for the players? Do you think he's going on the right path with those comments?
Well, I think he's been on the other side as well, because players that were there prior to him also criticized him when the team wasn't doing well. But I do believe that right now, and I was in the stadium at Sophie Stadium when they played Canada.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't believe the attendance. It was so disappointing eventually when the final was played with Mexico and Panama. It was a jammed house. Everybody was there. It was a full house. I really don't believe right now that it's a national team right now that has an identity. Because now they have a new coach. And now he might look at players differently than Burkhalter did. The players that are being called in might not be the same players. So I think they're in the process of trying to identify what this team's going to look like. And that's the reason I say the decision was made too late, because the World Cup's coming next year. And I don't think he's going to have enough time. I personally don't feel that this coaching staff is going to have enough time to really prepare the team the way they would have liked to prepare the team if they would have had 3 years.
How do you create an identity for a team in such a short amount of time? I know it's difficult to do, but what would you do to start?
First of all, you need to bring in the players that I think were already there. Players that were consistently being called in, were starting and playing, getting a lot of minutes. Players that, had, let's just say, a chemistry. And then from there, look at what was happening at training, what was happening in the games, what players were performing well, and then start making some moves. And I think overall, a lot of players that were called in that were part of what was happening in U.S. soccer under Burkhalter. But I also believe that some of the players that are called in are criticized and attacked. And I think that we should self-reflect as ex-players internationally and say, okay, I was there before, and what can I say that's constructive? And not really attack them that much, because you were there before and you were being attacked. You didn't like it.